to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All righty. Mr. Steele, awards and recognitions.
Yes, good evening. It is my pleasure to recognize a couple of students tonight. We've actually had 3 students in the district who recently scored a perfect score on the TCAP writing assessment. In this district, 2 at Hume Fogg and 1 at Glencliff High School. So first I'll recognize Kenneth Moore, who's not here. I think he had a sporting event or something tonight, so he could not be here. But we have Saba Raymond, who is here. So Saba, if you'll come forward. And we also have, I think your father's here also, is that correct? Yeah. So, all right. And then Dr. Kelly Hargis is the principal, if you'll come right over here. And Dr. Register and Dr. Gentry, if you'll come forward and get your picture made with Saba. We also have Michaela McClanahan. Michaela is at Glencliff High School, and I think you also have your family here with you. You'll join them. So achieving a perfect score in the TCAP writing is something that has happened very rarely across the state, and we're very proud to have these 3 students who have scored that. And Clint, I don't see Clint. Yeah, one boy got it. I'll give you that to take back to kids. Thank you.
What's next? Okay, going on to governance issues, consent agenda, Ms. Kim.
Great. All right, A, approval of minutes, 11/11/2014 and 11/25/2014 regular meetings. B, recommended approval of supplement number 2 for Hume Fogg Magnet High School Gymnasium Addition, Klein Swinney Associates. C, recommended approval of request number 3 for district-wide roof repairs, Taylor Stratton Elementary School, Collier Roofing Company Incorporated. D, recommended approval of request number 25 for district-wide maintenance, repairs, and general construction, Julia Green Elementary School Soccer Field, Southland Constructors LLC. E, recommended approval of request number 5 for purchase of furniture, Smith Springs Elementary School, GBI. F, recommended approval of request number 6 for purchase of furniture, New Overton Cluster Elementary School, GBI. G, recommended approval of request number 7 for purchase of furniture, Maxwell Elementary School Additions, GBI. H, recommended approval of request number 13 for asbestos abatement services, various schools, Levy Industrial Contractors Incorporated. I, awarding of purchases and contracts, 1, Ecolab Incorporated, 2, Course and Fire and Security, 3, Putnam County Schools, 4, Simplex Grinnell, 5, Southern Regional Education Board, and 6, Tennessee Higher Education Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you. We have a motion, second by Dr. Brandon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving into reports. Dr. Register.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I want to give you a fairly brief priority schools update, but the key part of this is that we have a number of introductions to make, and I'll ask Dr. Steele to come to the podium and be ready to do that, and ask our other folks who are here tonight to come up when they're announced. As all of you know, last fall we received a report from the state that identified new priority schools in the district. At that time, soon after that report came out, we developed and implemented a series of strategies and with a goal of eliminating priority schools in our district. And some of those goals, some of those strategies were short-term goals, and some were longer-term goals. We're approaching a time when we've implemented quite a good many of those. I want to bring you up to speed on that and also talk about where we're headed after tonight. We, in the fall, met with faculties to discuss concerns, to listen to the concerns that they had, to talk about weaknesses that we saw and to identify early in the fall, this was an urgency for us, short-term needs to address problems that we could address during this school year. We did add additional resources to a number of our priority schools. We worked with principals to develop short-term improvement plans, and one key part of that strategy was for us as a district to do instructional rounds to evaluate quality of instruction in schools and to make decisions about leadership in these schools. And as you'll recall, in the fall, one of the strategies that we talked about was to identify leaders who could turn around low-performing schools, to bring them on early so that this spring they could begin making decisions about school improvement grants and school improvement plans going into next year, and so that they could make decisions about hiring teachers who could do the work, turnaround specialists or teachers who had proven success. And we've moved quite a good ways in that. We have identified our leaders for our schools, and the people that we're going to introduce tonight are some new to the district, some new to our priority schools, and some with whom we have a great deal of confidence who will continue in the schools that they have. The other part of the strategy that's still remaining, or one part of the strategy, the overall strategy that's still remaining, is the East Nashville strategy. And we have some steps to complete in that process, particularly around the idea of pathways and providing to parents. We heard a lot of parents say that they would like to know that they could, when they enter school, that they had a pathway that would be guaranteed through 12th grade, looking at repurposing schools in the area. And we do have now, and I think you've received this, a schedule of meetings to complete this strategy. We did, back in the winter, appoint an East Nashville Advisory Committee. That committee's done very good work. They've been working on a regular basis. We're running a little behind now because of the ice. Not only did we have to close school too many days this year, but we also had to postpone and reschedule too many meetings. But we are now at a place where the East Nashville Advisory Committee will be presenting ideas and talking about pathways to the broader community. On March 30th, Stratford High School at 6 p.m. On April 1st, at 6 p.m., East Nashville Magnet School. On April 7th, at 6 p.m. at Bailey STEM Prep, where the task force will be presenting ideas that are coming out of the task force to the general community. Then on April 15th, the East Nashville Advisory Committee will hold its final meeting to incorporate the public input that they received and to develop final recommendations. I would like to invite the board members to attend that meeting. It is prior to the East Nashville Advisory Committee coming to the school board to make a presentation, but it would give you an opportunity to hear in advance what their ideas are and what their recommendations are. That's April 15th. And place to be determined. We don't have a location for that yet, but we'll be communicating with you. And then finally on May 12th, the East Nashville Advisory Committee will present their recommendations to the board at the May 12th meeting. So that sort of brings you up to speed, and I'm not sure how many of those dates you have in writing. I haven't communicated that myself. I think you probably have a schedule where it has been handed out, I believe, at your tables tonight. We'll be following up with that. And now I'm really excited and pleased to have Dr. Steele introduce leaders coming into the schools. I'm not sure everyone's here, but it is spring break for some people that are in the district, and we have some people coming in from other places who will be coming to work now, who are on board now,
Yes.
but who might not be here tonight. So Jay, I'll call on you to introduce these folks and bring them up and give us a little bit of a bio.
All right, thank you, Dr. Register. I'm going to introduce the priority school principals, our turnaround leaders, and ask them to come forward. I'm going to read a short bio on all of them but one. I'm going to read a longer bio on one because she just started this week, and her announcement went out yesterday, I believe, Janelle. Yesterday, or Joe? Today? Okay, went out today. So she is completely new to the district, so we want to spend a little more time on her. We all know that the research shows us that effective leaders and quality teaching are the two highest yield probability strategies in turnaround. So tonight we're going to celebrate our effective leaders that we have invested in Metro schools, and did a national search, leadership and learning, worked with human capital to recruit and hire the most effective leaders from across the U.S. So it's my pleasure tonight to start with Buena Vista. Principal Michelle McVicker will remain in place for the 2015-16 school year. She has 24 years in the district. She actually started in this district. I learned something new. She worked for WDCN, which was owned by the school district, which eventually became public television, and she was a curriculum expert there. She also worked in Rutherford County and Murfreesboro City Schools. She is a proven leader with a strong vision to match her school's unique needs, and Buena Vista has seen growth, significant, strong growth under her leadership. So Michelle, if you'll come forward. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Let's do a lineup.
Yeah, we're going to do a lineup and we're going to take a picture. So go ahead and go across there.
Yeah,
All right. At Inglewood, it's my pleasure to introduce the new principal, Tracy McPherson. I was one of the people that got to interview Tracy, so I will definitely say she is a true instructional literacy principal. So Jill, I think you'll be very pleased in knowing Tracy. Tracy actually worked in this district as a literacy coach at the district level and a teacher in this district. She has 25 years experience in education, and she was recruited through the national search through MNPS Turnaround Corps. She comes to us from Clarksville Montgomery Schools, and she was principal at East Montgomery Elementary School, and she has started already on the ground for about 3 weeks now? Roughly. All right. Thank you, Tracy. Kirkpatrick Elementary School, Mildred Nelson has 29 years experience in the district. She'll be working very closely with the KIPP Charter School to convert the conversion at Kirkpatrick. She is a former executive lead principal in the district and was the former principal at Cole Elementary School. All right, so at Napier Elementary School, this is what I'm going to spend a little time on. Angela Underwood, we've been trying to recruit Angela to Nashville for 2 years now. And believe it or not, her name came to me one day. I was sitting in church. Believe it or not, I was sitting in church. And my sister texted me from Louisville and said, I'm working with this person who has a principal in Detroit who's interested in coming to Nashville. So that's how we got connected. But we've been trying to get her here for 2 years. She's worked in the field of education for the past 18 years and is a graduate of the Gerstacker Fellowship Program. Did I pronounce it correctly? All right. She formerly served as principal of Nolan Elementary Middle School in Detroit with the Education Achievement Authority of Michigan, which is a statewide reform district. While principal of Nolan, Ms. Underwood's staff and students received much notoriety for their successful implementation of student-centered learning, which is a big push here in our elementary schools, and the use of a school-wide blended learning model, which is also a major initiative in Metro. Students at Nolan are grouped by ability rather than grade and are the first to have access to a one-to-one technology model since 2012, giving teachers and students and parents real-time access to content and progress data. The innovative approach implemented during her tenure at Nolan was featured in a recently published book entitled Blended, Using Disruptive Innovation to Improve Schools by Michael Horn and Heather Stacker. Ms. Underwood's commitment to engaging the community is evident as she has rallied over 150 volunteers and mentors and 65 community partners throughout the Detroit community who spend time each week mentoring students, sponsoring extracurricular clubs and working in her building. The majority of her students have achieved over 2 years' growth in reading and math since the implementation of student-centered learning. Nolan ranked third across 124 elementaries and middle schools in Detroit for growth in reading during the 2012-13 school year. Ms. Underwood served as principal of Faxon Elementary in Kansas City Public Schools. Faxon was one of the first schools in the district to pilot student-centered learning and the student use of one-to-one technology. So we're very pleased to have Angela Underwood at Napier Elementary School. At Robert Churchwell, very pleased to introduce Trelawney Lane, who is the current principal. She's in her first year there. She has been in education for 11 years, formerly at JFK Middle School, and she is working on her doctorate at Tennessee State University, and she was recently accepted into the Harvard Turnaround Institute for this summer. So we're very proud of Trelawney and her accomplishment and the work that you're going to be doing this summer. Justin Uppinghouse is at Whitsett Elementary School. He has 9 years in education. We were joking and calling him the baby of the group. He was recruited from Champaign, Illinois. He's in his first year at Whitsett. He was at an elementary and middle school experience while in Champaign. And he is a strong leader who's already made a significant improvement at Whitsett, including a stronger focus on instruction, data, and teacher collaboration. Dr. Christian Sawyer at Bailey STEM Middle Prep could not be here tonight, but we're definitely seeing the impact that Dr. Sawyer is having with the community and the students at Bailey, and their achievement is also on the rise. Miriam Harrington is the new principal at Jerry Baxter. She also could not be here tonight, but she is in her first year there, making a huge difference, and she also comes from a blended learning technology background at Hunters Lane. She was the assistant principal there over the freshman academy. At Jolton, is Sean there yet? All right. Sean, I'll do him last just in case if he comes in the next 5 minutes, so I'll come back to Jolton. Madison Middle Prep is led by Kelly Lorton. Kelly has 20 years experience in education. She was recruited here from Kansas City, Kansas. She's working on her doctorate at William Woods University, and we're very pleased that she brings in high school experience, and she'll be working at Madison. We're very pleased to have Kelly. Been on the ground for about 2 weeks now?
About 3.
About 3 weeks? Awesome.
Sometimes Tracy.
Okay, awesome. And at Neely's Bend Middle Prep, Michelle Brock-Demps brings 15 years of education experience to Neely's Prep, and she'll be leading working with LEAD to do the conversion at Neely's Bend. She comes to us from Memphis. She was she went through the training New Leaders for New Schools. She's also working on her doctorate at Trevecca University. And Sonia Stewart, principal at Pearl Cone High School. She has 18 years experience in education, and she came to Nashville from LA Unified, where she went through the Renaissance 2010 in Chicago, which was a training and identification of charter practices and charter schools in Chicago. I won't go into all the details there because it was quite long. She's completing her doctorate at Vanderbilt University, and I've had the pleasure of working with Sonia since coming to this district, and she's truly an instructional leader and one of the best. He's coming, but Sean Imperatrice will be the principal at Jolton. I've known Sean for about 3 years in his work at Clarksville Montgomery. He was the chief academic officer for Clarksville Montgomery Schools. He was recruited through the National Search for the MNPS Turnaround Corps, and he's been monitoring the transformation of Nashville schools and took the academy model that we've implemented here in our high schools back to Clarksville with his superintendent, B.J. Worthington, and implemented academies in every high school in Montgomery County, or Clarksville Montgomery schools. So we're very pleased to welcome Sean to Jolton Middle Prep. So if we can do a picture, Dr. Gentry and Dr. Register, if y'all can step back.
Would anyone like to say anything?
Put you on the spot there.
Just thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, great. We're excited about this approach. We think we have a great team of leaders, and we know you're going to make great progress. I've not met some of you. And so I want to welcome you to the district and wish you the very best. And we think it is really a head start to have you on board at this point in time in the school year, and being able to make a difference now in planning and staffing for next year. So congratulations, and we're really glad to have you with us.
Would you like to
So board members may want to make a comment.
I think if you have a representative here from your district and you haven't met them, I think now is a really, really good time. Come on,
Yeah,
we're moving
let's
ahead of
do that.
schedule here.
I am. That's okay.
Thank you very much.
How are you? Good to see
It's going very well.
That's what it looked like. I don't think that's increasing it. It seems like there's so obvious. I've been here since, and I don't know, we can recommend where you want cuts to take place. You know, you just go back through and see what you can.
Okay, Jason, that's all I ask.
It's just pressure.
Nothing you're proud of,
Yeah, I will, yeah, I'll say.
But then again, I'm at
Because, you know, so much is gone. We've been asked to
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I wanted to give you a brief update on the meeting that the four urban superintendents had with Governor Haslam yesterday. We met for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then had a short press briefing after that. I'll refer back to the last board meeting when you asked me to arrange a meeting with the governor to discuss BEP funding and to report back within 30 days. It's not a final report, but I am reporting back within the 30-day time period. I actually was in touch with the governor's office the next day. And they immediately arranged for the meeting with the four large city school directors in the state. I took their interest in the meeting so quickly as a very positive sign, and I think I was right to do so. Yesterday was a good conversation, and I said it yesterday, and I'll say it today. You don't solve a 15-year funding problem for the state of Tennessee in 30 days. That's not possible. And when you look at the extent of the issue of adequacy, you're somewhere in the $500 to $700 million a year range. And I think it's correct to say that nobody in the room, including the governor, had an answer for a deficit of $500 to $700 million. That said, the conversation, the governor's comments were framed around the fact that this is a very important topic, and it's very important to move the outcomes for Tennessee students. And the governor sees funding as a way to help improve outcomes in the state of Tennessee, and that's what he wants to talk about. He wants to talk about how funding can help improve outcomes in the state of Tennessee. He made it clear that funding's not the only answer, but it is part of the answer, and I agree with him on that. All of us in the room committed to identifying the high-yield strategies that, with additional funding, could move the dial for students in Tennessee. The governor committed to looking at what can be done in both the short term and in the long term to increase the pie for all Tennessee school districts, not just redividing the pie, but increasing the pie. And as I said earlier, it's at least a $500 million problem, and no easy answers to that. The governor asked Commissioner Candace McQueen to lead the effort to work with us. I actually had a follow-up conversation with Commissioner McQueen today, a very positive conversation, and some next steps planning there to develop a process for getting where we want to be and the steps that we need to get there. And then the governor committed to reconvening the same group in 2 months for an update from Commissioner McQueen and from the rest of us on the progress that we're able to make between now and then. I left the meeting feeling confident that the governor is committed to increasing K-12 funding for all students. He's committed to a process that will help us make good decisions as a part of this process. And he is committed to looking at it both on a short-term basis and a strategic long-term basis. I don't have any prepared remarks to address the fact that Hamilton County Board of Education and some neighboring systems there took first steps and filed a briefing today for a lawsuit. I think, and frankly, I was surprised by that. After the fact that Director of Schools Rick Smith was there yesterday, and I spoke to Rick today, and I know that he went back and yesterday was talking to members of his board, but they were quite far along in this process, further than they are, and the circumstances, the context in Hamilton County are quite different from what we have here in Nashville also. In my conversation with Dr. McQueen today was that action should not deter forward motion on a collaborative and constructive approach to looking at the whole issue of funding in the state of Tennessee. I look forward to that conversation going forward. And that's really about all all I have to say. Be glad to answer any questions, but there's not a lot of more substance that came from the meeting than that. Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you and be glad to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Register regarding the meeting? I have a question. So I heard you said that there would be a report in 2 months.
Well, so the governor asked, the governor tasked Commissioner McQueen to lead this effort, and she is going to start immediately in working on this issue of funding and looking at the challenge. And what the governor asked for was for us to come back together in 2 months for a progress report to him. I think that the legislative session is going to be over quicker than that, and I think it'll be quite interesting to see what other steps the governor takes in the short term, if there are other steps taken in this legislative session. We don't know that. He hasn't finalized his budget recommendations to the legislature at this point in time.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Register. And we have made our way to announcements. Ms. Hunter? Any? Dr. Brandon? Ms. Mary?
Yes, thank you. I want to give a shout out to 2 Teachers of the Year. Whitney Bradley was named Middle School Teacher of the Year. And Whitney is from Bailey STEM Magnet Prep Middle School. And Diane Winstead was named the Elementary Teacher School of the Year, Elementary School Teacher of the Year, and she's from Old Center. Congratulations to Whitney and Diane and all 6 of the finalists. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to present at the National School Board Association conference, and with Dr. Ron Woodard from Maplewood High School and a team of educators. Ron's work and visionary spirit helped turn around the lowest performing school, deemed a dropout factory by our previous governor, Phil Bredesen. During the 4 years that Dr. Woodard has been at Maplewood, the value-added scores have rose to one of the highest in the district. As a matter of fact, it has outperformed charter schools and magnet schools. The school went from all 1s to all 4s and 5s, and literacy and numeracy with the exception of 1-3. The number of college scholarships have increased since Dr. Woodard's tenure from 91,000 to 5.1 million. Maplewood students achieve these amazing results through offering wraparound services, increasing the number of business partners, and helping to change the community. Congratulations to Dr. Woodard, his entire staff, and the students at Maplewood. Our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be next Tuesday, when we will continue our discussion of student success. And our guest speaker next week will be Dr. Sue Kessler from Hunters Lane. Thank you.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes. Last Friday morning, Ms. Kim and I had the opportunity to welcome around 200 visitors from the NSBA convention at Pearl-Cohn High School. These visitors were from all across the United States and Canada, and they came to Pearl-Cohn and to our district to see the great things that we have going on. And I want to thank Lori Shell and Nola Jones for asking me to be a part of that presentation. Yesterday was a banner day for schools in Metro Nashville Public Schools. First, the USA Today cited Nashville among other cities who are closing the gap between high school and work with our academies model. With those models, the dropout rates are reversing and graduation rates are increasing, and all this while our high school students get real-world experience. And also yesterday, MNPS was named as one of the best communities for music education by the NAM Foundation. NAM is the National Association of Music Merchants. And sure enough, when I visited their booth at the NSBA convention last Saturday, our name was listed on their Hall of Fame list. And to echo my colleagues' remarks, I want to give a shout out to Miss Martha Mitchell from McGavock High School, who was named one of the high school teachers of the year. She is an amazing teacher, and she just does a great job each and every day, and you can just watch her and see the passion that she has for around those kids. That's all.
Yes, I have a few announcements. First of all, I want to mention that I attended a forum on testing and standards on March 9th that was hosted by Vanderbilt's Peabody College of Education. They had a panel of education researchers who discussed testing, its limitations, the purpose of testing, and links between poverty, education, and achievement in urban settings. It was a very productive and enlightening conversation, and one point that was made during the forum is that often teachers, researchers, and policymakers work in isolation, and researchers really should be driving many of our conversations as policymakers. I want to thank the organizers of that event, and I hope that we can engage with these researchers during future board discussions. I also spent some time recently at Bailey Middle Prep, and I saw firsthand the positive impact that Dr. Sawyer is making there, so I'm sorry that he was unable to be here today. This school has a wonderful partnership with Vanderbilt, and I want to congratulate them on their progress. And finally, I would like to bring notice that I will be bringing a motion to engage independent legal counsel to advise the board regarding BEP litigation. There is a school of legal thought that says we may need to intervene in the lawsuit to ensure that the interests of our students and teachers are protected. And I think we need competent legal advice to make that determination. And I also would like to say that hiring an attorney to advise us certainly should not preclude further dialogue with the state. That's all I have.
I just want to continue what Ms. Spearing mentioned about the participation and representation of this particular school district at this weekend's conference. So as Ms. Spearing mentioned, she and Ron Woodard, along with 2 others, were on a panel regarding instructional coaching for change. And so I want to thank you for that. We had representation, Mr. Pinkston, that's right, was on a panel for advocating for increased access to school breakfast. These are the longest titles in the world, guys. Advocating for increased access to school breakfast to build revenue and improve educational outcomes for school children in high poverty schools. So he joined 3 others in that panel. I joined Dr. Ray and Mr. Williams, our CIO, Keisha Ray and John Williams, on a panel for using personalized learning and online assessments as a lever of change. And Dr. Ray and I also were part of the keynote presentation for the Q portion of the conference, creating equitable STEM learning opportunities for K through 12 girls. And Dr. Register, Dr. Register got into a shouting match. He got shafted. It was the room next to his, the 2 AV systems kept overlapping, so his room got mixed up at 1:30 on Saturday. But his presentation was on district transformation, the keys to success. So he had a full attendance there and led a great presentation with some really good information. Good questions and feedback came after that as well. So I thank all of you for representing MNPS at that national conference. That's all I have.
I have one more.
Where'd you go?
I do have an announcement.
I was on a roll.
I just wanted to mention to our seniors that the deadline for the Bernard Harris Scholarship
Yes.
is April 8th. That's through the Council of Great City Schools. You can go online and fill out that application if you haven't already done so.
Thank you. And Ms. Pierce.
I just want to remind people that to come out to Hillsborough High School next Thursday, April 2nd at 6:30 for the Mayoral Forum that's hosted by the Hillsborough High School PTSO and the Tennessean Education Report.
Thank you. Hurry up, Ms.
Oh.
There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. The director search, and he has a presentation that's going to walk us through as we start to get started with the search itself. Our goal tonight is to finalize at least a draft version of the calendar and the milestones and major events that we want to see take place between now and our hiring. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you. And thank you very much for allowing me to come and meet you tonight and to share in the process of this most important task that you're embarking upon. I've given each of you my contact information and my card. I think they also sent a copy of my resume, and so you have that information as well, so I won't spend any time doing that. At your places tonight is a binder that we'll use throughout the search, and we have the first thing to put in there is the PowerPoint that you also have a hard copy of that at your places. And what we'll do is at each step, we'll have other materials for you. As you look through tab 1 in the binder, you'll see that there are some materials for tonight's discussion. There's an agenda that Phil Attia sent to you. I believe he sent it to you by email. And then there's some charts and some backup information that we'll refer to as I go through the presentation tonight. And then in the second tab, we'll send you some information to go on that as we get to that phase, which is the development of the leadership profile, and so on. So each tab has a different function and phase of the search, and we'll provide you with information. Following tonight's meeting, I'll do a summary of tonight's meeting and send it as a draft to make sure that everybody agrees on what I perceive as what we talked about and agreed to tonight. And you should have that in a couple of days. And you can also include that in the binder as well. So tonight I'll go through the search process with an overview of, I'm going to advance this as we go. Overview of the tasks, and of course the content structure is something that we want to be customized for your school district. Also point out that Diana McCauley and Bill Attia and I will be working with you throughout the whole process, and each of us will be involved throughout. On the third slide, I tried to put what would be an outcome for tonight's meeting, that we'd come away with a customized search process for your school district, including a calendar of events and meetings, including individual meetings with the board, as all part of the stakeholder and community engagement. I hope that you'll have a clear understanding of the steps to the search process and whose responsibilities are with which parts of the steps. And then we'll talk a little bit about the online survey and its use, as well as the leadership profile and its importance in the search. There'll be times when we'll be asking you for some consensus tonight, and for example, in how to handle communications and a board liaison, and and so we'll indicate that on each slide that has a big question mark on it. Some of the decisions don't have to be made tonight. The ones that do, I'll ask you to try to come to some consensus on those. In your materials, in the binder, you should have a sheet like this, which is the flow chart, and it's a little easier to read than the bottom half of each of these slides, including the printed one, but this is an easier one to follow through. And what I'll do is I'll go quickly through the 4 phases for the search process. It should be back a ways in tab 1. Should be one of those. So I'll talk about each one, highlight them, and then we'll come back and do a little more in-depth on a couple of the phases. So the first phase is the one that we're in right now. So we start with the planning meeting, and then talk about the stakeholder group input. We'll set up a schedule for that, get the survey activated and online, schedule meetings, and then compile all of that information into a leadership profile draft report, bring it back to the board. The board then considers it, deliberates over it, finalizes it, and then that is used as the basis for recruitment. Those are the desired characteristics for the next director of schools for your school district. If you look at those boxes in the flow chart, you'll see that the planning meeting, then within 2 weeks, usually we do the community engagement part. That gives us ample time to invite people and put it on their calendars. Within 7 to 10 days following the community engagement and the utilization of the online survey, we compile all that information and bring that back to you within 7 to 10 days. And then, of course, the board approves the criteria, and we talk about an ad content and get into the recruitment phase. So the next part in the recruitment phase usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, but we will show you the calendar later, and it is about that length of time for all the recruitment. One of the things to note on this slide is the optional workshop on board roles, and Bill Attia actually talked about the possibility of doing that with the board to talk about roles, responsibility, relationships, and expectations of the board, and to do that sometime during the early recruitment phase. When it comes to the actual application process, we'll recruit people as well as have people apply. The position is going to be listed on the HYA website. I think it went up live today, so that people who visit our website will see that and they'll know that. We'll also, based upon the profile that's developed and agreed to by the board, we'll engage in a recruitment process, and we'll correspond with anybody who does apply. Part of the survey is to ask people not only about the characteristics, but if they have someone that they feel should be looked at or might be a good applicant who might fit the profile, those individuals will be contacted and find out whether or not there is a match. Whenever anybody applies formally, we, the 3 consultants, receive an email to indicate that that application has been received. And so we have an opportunity to contact them back by email so that we can make sure that we have an acknowledgement of their application and begin a conversation with them about the position. Then when it comes time for the selected candidates, that's also in the recruitment phase, and we of course begin conducting reference checks throughout, and the application material at the point of interviewing, of course, will be shared with the board. The next phase is the selection phase, and The key tasks for that are crafting the script, and the script is based upon questions that come from board members. And we assist you in putting that all together. That also involves a little workshop on protocols and do's and don'ts for interviewing. And I'm sure that some of you, or if not all of you, have been involved in interviews, and you know there's some questions that you can't ask, and there's some questions that you shouldn't ask, and then some questions you definitely should ask. And but we'll assist you in either putting together questions about an individual's experience, or maybe more open-ended questions that would ask a person some hypothetical kinds of questions. And then we join in with you at the end of each of the interview stages, so that following the first round of interviews, we will sit with you. We usually don't sit during the interviews unless you want us to, but following the interviews, we'll help you debrief and talk about the next phase, and we'll do that at both of those parts of the interviewing stages in the selection part of the process. We'll, of course, engage in what's called the due diligence and background checks, and there's some materials again, behind tab 1 about Baker Eubanks, which is a firm that specializes in that kind of work, and we'll help you with that as we get to that point. Then finally is the appointment phase, and there are 3 critical tasks. One is to do that deep background check, and of course, we've done informal background checks, but the Baker Eubanks goes much deeper. They go into legal issues and credit issues and things like that. We also highly recommend a site visit, and then we'll assist you also with the contract negotiations. So let me then back up in the process just a little bit and go back and talk about the leadership profile development. So when we talk about community engagement, it's basically 5 areas that we listen to people talk about. We just throw out some prompts. Sessions usually last 50 minutes to an hour, and we'll talk about some of the different groups that are involved. And we ask people to start by talking about the strengths of the school district, areas of growth or challenges facing the district is the second thing. And the third thing is to hone in on leadership competencies that people see, either things that are personal attributes or areas of expertise or administrative style of individuals. And then thinking about the community, what are the attractions to the school district and the community generally for candidates. And then, as I indicated, if people want to share with us the names of individuals or maybe somebody that they heard about who might be a good match for the school district, then they can do that as well. I'm going to have a little more detail on the actual survey as we get a couple more slides down. So one of the things that we suggest, and here's where we come to the first consensus area, and that is we suggest that we have individual conferences with each member.
Can we go back one slide?
Pardon me?
Can we go back one slide?
Sure.
So guys, I know that we haven't had a feedback yet, so I don't know, can we take a minute and go back to just the planning phases? Just make sure to see if you guys have any questions about the things that we need to accomplish during this phase as we start to get ready to do outreach and other things. Anything you think missing in here? Just that first phase, the planning phase itself, in that whole part of the diagram.
It looks pretty good to me.
You good?
Yeah.
Good. All right.
I probably would have added something. I mean, there's the actual activity.
So we're here, just this one.
Exactly, yeah. But the one thing I would add to that planning phase is, I mean, the active recruitment. Sorry, I do this for a living. So that start, like, there's the actual act of it, but then there's a planning phase even for that. And I don't know if that is not evident in planning phase 1. I mean, there's lots of like spade work that just has to be done before you even set out into the field and start like recruiting. Planning
sure,
work,
yes.
identification, like pipeline building, all of that stuff, vetting. And so I would like to see that start now, during the planning phase rather than during the recruitment phase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And so, right, so with the, as soon as we finish the conversation tonight, we'll have a sense of where, for example, you want to advertise the position and where we'll begin the listings. There are some that we can start within the next couple of days. And so that's part of that.
Sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. So, like, let's say if I have a spread, so I don't know, I was trying to see if I can get an example. Like, you could imagine like a spreadsheet with just literally like a pipeline developed. So you're thinking like all the C-suite level people in New York City, because some of those like district superintendents are actually managing districts that are bigger than this one, just like the sub-districts. And so you want to line all that up and get your pipeline in gear.
Right.
You want to have a bunch of different facts, like what is their background, what is their, and even just basic facts of years of experience. I think all of us want a diverse pool, so I'd be interested in knowing like what kind of diversity do they bring to the table. So I just feel like that, I call it pipeline building. It's just literally just a fancy, just a wonky term though for just what's the list. So the top 300 candidates that you've, searched the world over. And are you teed up then when the recruiting phase actually begins? Because then there's the actual act of like contacting them, having the conversations. And so when I look at this window, like 6 to 8 weeks then is not long, you know what I'm saying? So if you haven't done those early stages, that's
right.
pipeline building.
And to some extent, we do that, but a lot of it depends upon the leadership profile that you define, which helps us hone in on the people that fit the profile. But to say, are there districts that are comparable or similar to Metropolitan Nashville, then that's obviously yes. We do look at that from the beginning. We've already begun to do that. So I understand what you're talking about, and we do consider that right at the beginning.
Got it. Okay.
So the next thing, if you go forward to the slide where you were on, right before we get ready to discuss community engagement, the topics slide. Okay, can you guys just take a look at that and make sure? So these are the sort of the topics that you would throw out to these groups or the one-on-one conversations as we start talking about stakeholders. So just want you guys to take a look at that listing. So this is the feedback that they're going to bring back to us.
So let me explain it just a tiny bit more. So when we talk about the strengths and the challenges, we're asking to set the context. And then once the context has been set, a description of the school district according to the people that are there, then we ask them, given that context, what are the most desirable characteristics for the director of schools? And then throw out and ask them, talk about personal attributes, talk to us about expertise and experience, and then administrative style. So that's the conversation that helps us bring back the profile characteristics.
As far as getting those questions out to the groups, I see that in the planning phase. Will you be working with someone in the district to help set all those groups up? Is that?
Yes.
How does that work? Okay.
Yes. I will rely on somebody here, and I'll rely on you tonight, actually, to add to the groups that we're suggesting that are on slides 10, 11, 12, and so on. But we will need help and assistance to...
So we'll make sure he gets the contact names and individuals that he needs.
Yeah.
The other things that we'll...
And typically, a letter goes out from the board president inviting certain people and certain groups to come, and then a general letter by email or on the website and to whatever other mailing list that the district has to contact people and alert them to the fact that we're doing these sessions and we want people to come. And you'll see as we go that we'll offer a wide variety of times when they can come. And the idea is, to just sort of skip ahead to that, the idea is to create a synergy and an enthusiasm for that period that's been publicized and people know about, and hopefully put on their calendars to come to one or more of the sessions that would be to their liking and to their schedules.
Good with the topics? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're suggesting that we have individual conferences, and I know that Bill and Diana had individual conferences with you as part of the proposal, but to revisit that and to engage in that again with each individual board member, and actually try to schedule those this evening if that's possible to do, so that we can get your schedule on the schedule and then kind of work around that for the other sessions that we would have. So we're suggesting that each member of the board and then the director of schools, are there any others that we should do or for individual conferences? Next, I'm going to suggest small groups, but before we get to that, are there any other individuals that you think we should talk to?
I think we're good.
The mayor?
So one-on-one, current mayor, anything? No, yes, maybe?
Well, that comes back here. But I mean, we talk about
Is that on
under
here?
community, yeah, on the next page, it's elected officials.
Yeah, that's on there.
So you want to leave that in a group?
This has a group,
This looks good to me. Maybe the mayor, he's been a real champion of our
yeah.
Pardon?
effort.
The mayor.
So would you like me to add that?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be, we'll add the mayor as another one of the individual. And if you think of others, we can adjust that as we go. But how about small groups? So we're suggesting that the foundation board, teacher leadership, however you define that, and then non-certified or classified staff leadership, and then district-wide PTA, PTO people, and then student leadership from high schools.
There's an organization called Parent Advisory Council. That might be a good group to add to that.
And Parent Advisory Council is a district-wide group?
It is. It has representation from each different cluster that we represent.
Okay, great. So we could add that as one of the small groups.
Yeah.
Are there any other small groups like that, like a special education advisory group, or a health and physical education advisory group, or? Service organizations? Okay.
Teachers union.
Yeah, so that's what we're thinking in terms of teachers' leadership, and so we talk maybe with the executive group of that, of the teachers' organization.
I was thinking the mayoral candidates.
That's later on.
Is that later? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I was
Okay.
thinking to put those,
Sorry.
I made a note under the slide that says elected and appointed officials or representatives, we just add them as the candidates, put them under there.
Okay. And then there's some advocacy groups, y'all can tell us about different names, but TREE, Tennesseans Reclaiming Educational Excellence.
Faith-based organizations.
Yeah, faith-based.
We had the group from NOAA the other night that
Yeah,
spoke
hold
to
on
us
one
that
second.
really
So
wanted to be
let's go,
included.
let's hold those thoughts. So small groups, are you thinking, is TREE a nonprofit?
I don't think they're officially set up as anything, but I'd have to check.
All right, so let's, okay.
But there are probably other groups that might be.
Yeah, so
Nothing's
I
coming to
want to make sure
mind.
we just be careful how low,
Right.
how far down we go.
Yeah.
Because remember, they'll be open, there's some opportunities for
Right.
everyone to participate.
Sure.
So, okay.
So I
we-
added Parent Advisory Council to slide 10.
Yes, for
with the
small
small
groups.
groups, okay?
Let's go over to slide 11.
So here we're talking about groups of staff members, central office administration, and then support and classified staff in the central office, and then school administrators, or building administrators, and then the director's executive leadership group. Any other identifiable groups?
The exceptional ed, what is the group that had the forum?
Oh, can't hear you.
The group that had the forum on exceptional ed.
I don't remember the name of the group.
Lisa Hammett would know. I can try and get that.
And Aaron, I mean, I should know it.
LEISA, HAM.
So you want to put
Try
that
and
in
get it.
small groups? Or
I mean, I know they would appreciate that.
And
I can
what
get
do
the
they
name.
focus on?
Exceptional education.
Exceptional education, okay. And it's Lisa Hammond?
Hammett. Is it
Hammett?
her? Hammett. I'm not sure. I have to look at the name.
Okay.
I'll try and get it for you.
Well, we'll find, yeah, thank
Text
you.
Aaron, I'll get it right now.
Okay.
Also, does NOAA fit here? And in the IMF, I was thinking as a face-based. What does IMF stand for? Independent, what is it?
Well,
Faith-based, I should know.
So
They came and spoke.
IMF?
So
What
that's
is it? Interdenominational
IMF?
Ministers of Faith.
No, well, that wasn't the group that came here.
no, that was Noah.
That wasn't Noah either.
Oh, well, you're right. They were part
A
of
little bit of both, right?
So,
Yeah.
let's just remember, we can't name every organization. I think IMF is one that we want to put on there as a official form group, and NOAA. Well, NOAA, I think that we would want to partner with to get the bigger forum, because they have done a great job of putting together a community forum. So I think we want to partner with them when we get to the open meetings to help identify attendees for that. But we definitely want to add IMF to external community groups.
NOAA is Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. That's what NOAA is.
What's not even Noah?
Under community, just on the open meetings to help.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
There's going to be big overlap in NOAA with a lot of the other.
It is the ministers, but
So on 12 is where we want to add the mayoral candidates.
Yeah, I have that.
And could I make a comment around that as well? Certainly, in number 21, where we have identified the Chamber of Commerce, and we're talking about the Nashville Chamber of Commerce, and I know that, they need to be at the table as well as the Donaldson Hermitage Chamber of Commerce, because they are heavily involved in the schools in my district. And I would like to have them at the table as well.
and where would Conexión America?
Yeah, because we've got a lot of other.
How about,
But go ahead. Well, hold on. Donaldson.
I'm jumping around.
Donaldson Hermitage Chamber of Commerce.
So there are other chambers of commerce representing
We have a
other
Black
parts of the
Chamber of
county.
Commerce.
Yeah.
We've got the Nashville Chamber of Commerce. We've got a
Bellevue.
Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We have a
Rivergate, Madison,
East. Yeah, so we have to find how, when we say chamber, we
Right.
want a chamber meeting and invite all the chamber groups, business
Yeah.
entities.
Yeah.
Because remember, we have a window of time here
Yeah,
to
it's-
schedule a whole bunch of meetings.
So what typically we can do is ask a representative from each of those chambers to come to a group, so
Okay.
that if it's not the executive director, the chairman of their board or something like that. Yeah.
So will we get ultimately a complete listing of,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and what we'll do is we'll come back to you the next couple of days.
Yes.
And we'll have their, and Camille, you might be able to help me because I'm taking notes as fast as I can, and then make sure I have everything that we talked about on that listing. And then we'll begin to send out the invitations and ask people to focus in on a group that we've set aside for them.
Okay. That's good.
And Janelle, can you help with contact names for the organization?
How about League of Women Voters? They take positions on education issues. And Women in Numbers, it's another.
Okay. And I wrote down tree, and then to look at other faith-based organizations. NAACP. Any other organizations?
Okay.
And again, if you think of any, just let me know, and then we'll make sure that we extend an invitation to them. Okay, so then we suggest that we have an opportunity for staff generally to come, perhaps a late afternoon time, particularly geared toward staff, and maybe a couple of those, maybe in different parts of the district. And then a morning option for people whose schedule allows them to come early in the day, and then a couple of evening options. And those are open meetings. Anybody can come to those meetings. And again, is this where you indicated that Noah might assist us in getting people out and contacting folks?
Yeah, probably some other, and probably some of the same organizations we've already mentioned. We just want to make sure that they receive the communication and the scheduling of when these open meetings will occur.
Right.
Will we be expected to attend all of these various meetings?
No.
Or will we
you won't be
report
able
back?
No, no.
No, so it'll be
And some-
several of them.
Yeah,
Right,
and
so there'll be
some-
three or four.
Yeah,
that will
it would be
come,
three of
and there'll
us.
be concurrent meetings going on across the
Then you'll
city.
just report back to
Yes.
us?
Oh, yeah, and what we'll do is it's possible if just two of us are here, it's possible for us to do 20 meetings in a day. And so in 2 days, we can do 40 meetings. In 3 days, we can do 60 meetings. So we can do a lot of meetings. That includes the individual interviews. So we can get a lot done in a relatively short period of time. Again, if it's concentrated and people know that this is the time, and build some enthusiasm for it and get people to put it on their calendars. So then, let me throw out this idea. Are there some other things going on in the community that we should interface with, and other things that are happening in the metropolitan Nashville area that we should be aware of, or in tune, or sensitive to, or respectful of, that are going on as well? Any other community-wide efforts?
Yes. So you have a Nashville Public Education Foundation that is getting ready to gear up a big initiative here soon, and they are also conducting surveys, online surveys, I believe, and gathering data and feedback. And I know that our internal communications lead, Janelle, is involved in some community engagement and feedback as well. So there's just some additional data points of information.
Okay. Good.
That you don't want to discount as part of this process.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know. So speaking of surveys, so in your packet then behind tab 1.
So let me go ahead and say this. Every group may not get listed in a personal invitation, but as much as we love social media and love our communications, please let's help facilitate this process by, once the listing of community meetings, open meetings is defined, and locations and dates, let's get it out there. Okay, we'll put it on the website, tell everybody that you know, tell everybody that you know, so that we want to encourage or discourage. We want to discourage anyone being offended because a letter didn't come with their name on it inviting them. Okay, we're doing the best that we can, but we want to make the important part is that we create enough open opportunities for anyone who wants to provide feedback. If that is their primary goal, is to give us feedback and be a part of this process, a constructive part of this process, they do have an opportunity to participate.
Sorry, can we add CNAP?
That's it.
Did they add it already?
No, but that's the name of the affectional ad, isn't it? No? Okay.
What does CNAP stand for?
She just made that up.
Okay.
I knew you were going to ask that question, but it's the Southeast Nashville
That was
Community Group.
I can't. I just texted her. It's been 3 years since I ran the camera.
Is there a person?
Community, isn't it? Area community.
We can read it on it.
You
We
do?
have, yeah, so
For
there's
CNAP?
also community organizations all
Yes.
across the city. There's North Nashville, there's East Nashville, so we'll
Countless.
make sure that all that
All
gets
of
on
them
the
needs to
list.
get on the list.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
we could be here all night
Yeah.
listening to
Got it.
those.
Okay, so
Let's
we'll
just
we'll
get the
get,
list, yeah. We will add names to the list.
nice to meet you. Okay. Can you give me your number? Okay. All right, so we'll,
Well, if somebody gets upset with you because you didn't call their organization name, that's a different conversation.
yeah. Okay, so now here's the online survey. So you actually have a copy of this behind tab 1, and so if you look at it, the blue side says defining the desired characteristics. I just want to talk about that for a second. There is a document that we didn't put in there, but if you'd like it, I'd be glad to get it to you. It's a review of the literature on effective superintendents. And based upon that, this is our the group that HYA merged with, ECRA, put this white paper together on effective superintendents. You don't have this, but I'd be glad to leave my copy with you. But you do have this. And these 25 competencies are based upon this research. So this is a meta-analysis of research. They looked at studies, and they found the characteristics of effective superintendents. And the frustrating part about the survey is that there are 25 competencies. And when you look at them, you say, well, we want them all. But the idea is for people to think about the context again, the strengths, the challenges, and then given that, which 8 are the most mission critical to Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. And it will be frustrating to people. I will also tell you that you see them in a particular order here. The survey, it says superintendent profile on the back, and it has them in a particular order where people actually bubble in or select the ones that they wanted. But they are in different order every time it comes up. So if people say, well, I voted for the first 5, why don't you do the same? Well, everybody's survey doesn't look the same. So that's done that way intentionally. Now, we usually get a really good response to this and tell people how to access it. We'd like to put a link on your district website so that people can start accessing the survey within the next couple of days. And we can start gathering information. One thing that people do when they first go on is they identify their group. And the groups are listed here, board members, administrators, community members, parents, support staff, teachers, and students. So that's 7 groups. And we think that covers everybody. And then what we can do is we can disaggregate it by groups. We can show what are common themes across all groups, and then we can show how groups differ from each other. We'll present that kind of an analysis of the data to you, so you can see, do teachers think differently from administrators, or do students think differently from board members? You can make those kinds of comparisons in the information that we bring back to you. And again, we send out an email alert and let people know that it's available and how to access it, and it's real easy to access. There is an open-ended part too, and some people use that. There's no limit on how much they can write, but they can put comments in from an open-ended question. And then finally, again, they can name somebody. So it's a real good survey in that it doesn't take a long time to fill out unless you decide to spend time writing. But that's up to the individual. So it's not a prohibitive kind of thing. It really has 4 stops to it, and it's a pretty easy survey to complete. Okay? We can monitor the activity. That is to say, we can tell whether or not people are accessing it, and whether there's interest from particular groups but not others, and then we can always send out reminders to those groups that don't seem to be responding. In addition, we can put it in more than one language, if you think that's appropriate.
Definitely
Yeah,
appropriate.
absolutely.
It's necessary.
Okay, and do you want to tell me which languages besides?
147 to choose from, so.
Dottie's can help us.
Here, Dottie's right there.
And she'll get that information too.
You'll get to me, okay, and we have,
We got about 6 to 8 major languages.
great, thank you. And if you could share that with us, we'll make sure that that's done. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I mentioned that it would be great if we could put it on the district website, and it might be good to establish a page on the website that has information about the search. So a director of schools page, so that we can put dates of meetings, we can put a link to the survey on there. Those kinds of things it would be good to have. Okay on the survey? Okay, so now board member communications. So in just a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about the calendar. So before we leave tonight, if possible, I had the opportunity to sign 8 of you up for a 1-hour conversation with one of us, and we'd like to do that tonight, and we'll do that during the community engagement days. The other thing is that usually during the search, board chair acts on behalf of the board as the liaison, our contact, and if we get inquiries about the search, we usually refer those to the board chair. However, if it's something that has to do with technical aspects of the search, or why do you do this, or why do you do that, or where these competencies come from, and you'd like to defer that to us, we'd be glad to handle talking to the media at your direction. And then, in terms of communication with the board, Hank Clay has provided us with your email addresses, so I have a distribution list all set up for you so that we can communicate with you. If that's okay, if you want us to use those email addresses, we can do that. If not, let me know if there's a preferred way to communicate with you. You think generally emailing is going to be okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, as I indicated, we'll probably send things to you at least on a weekly basis. And each time that we meet, like I said earlier, there was a summary of what we did tonight. We'll share that with you in draft form so that you can add to it and correct some things that maybe I misrepresented. Okay. So, did you all happen to bring your calendars with you?
Yes, we did.
The next thing we're going to do is to talk a little bit about the calendar. And in the meeting agenda that Bill sent to you, he put in some suggested dates, and those are dates for discussion. And I have our 3 calendars all on one, so we're ready to start calendarizing the process.
So first you want to do the individual meetings?
Well, I guess if we could decide when is the time for the bulk of the community engagement to take place, that would be, then we can. Then I have a little sign-up sheet actually, and we can I'll put some dates on them, and we can pass that around and get people to sign up on that. But I guess the first thing I want to know is just looking at this overall listing, and then I put a slightly different one in here, and then Bill and I actually and Diana talked about this. this is what we think is a realistic approach. We can do the one that he had in the draft. It's a little tighter. This gives us about a week more to do recruiting and that kind of thing. But a lot of this, depends upon how you want to do this. We're hoping to look at a couple of pivotal points here. The leadership profile, which is, the pivotal point for the recruitment aspect. We're hoping to get that, the interviews done and the engagement done so that we can bring back a profile to the board on either the 13th or we have up here, or as late as the 27th would be an ideal time to bring it back to you. Now, understand what has to happen before that. So we've got to send out notices and invitations of people to come to the community engagement part. Get people to respond to the survey. So you need probably 10 days to 2 weeks to let people know when the dates are and when the meetings are and ask them to come. And then you spend a week or 4 days out of a week listening to people and compiling all that information, analyzing the survey, putting that together. Usually takes 7 to 10 days, and then bring that back to you, and that's when you start deciding on the profile. So what would it look like if we did the community engagement piece the week of April 14th through the 17th? That's a Tuesday through a Friday. And all three of us can come and be in your district. And the only thing you would have to do is be available for 1 hour during that 4-day period. But those would be times when we would be out listening to people in all these venues that we talked about, and either doing small groups, large groups, open forum. How does the week of the 14th through the 17th look for you?
Is there anything going on in the district that
that's good to
we
know,
need to know
too.
about?
Yeah, great.
Budget.
Yeah.
Other than that?
We haven't picked a location yet, so we haven't announced it, but we're planning to do state of schools on April 15th that morning.
And then there's the East Nashville Advisory Board meeting that Dr. Register announced tonight on the 15th. I assume that's in the evening.
It's at 5:30.
5:30.
So generally, you think it would be okay then?
I think it'll be fine. So the board meeting, this is not for us. It's not for the mayor. So it's just the 14th and 17th over 4 days, having 3 times 4 times 4 meetings
Right.
to happen. So I think for all intents and purposes, so nobody's out of school, nobody's going to be on vacation. Right? Okay.
Okay.
Which does include the meeting. Peter, would you clarify what this includes the meeting went down to?
Yes.
Yeah, so a 1 hour meeting.
A 1 hour
So
meeting.
you find 1 hour over a 4-day period to meet with one of these guys as well.
I can put that in.
Do you want us to tell you what day and time we're available? Do you want to do that now?
He's going to pass the sheet on.
So I just,
Okay.
now I didn't have these dates in here until just now.
Understand.
Okay. And then I put times of the day, 1 hour slots from 7:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And I put down the 14th, 15th, and 16th just to start, see how that works, and if we need to go further, we can do that. And technically, 2 of you could sign up for the same slot, because we'll have 2 people here during that time. At least 2. Maybe all 3 of us will be here. Okay. So then at some point, following the community, between now and the time we bring the profile back, Bill will talk with you about doing the roles, relationship, responsibilities, and
Well,
expectations.
actually, let's do that as well while we're here. So we need to find a day, a whole day. I know, so get on out, nobody's sad. Okay, a whole day. And I say a whole day, so Bill said somewhere between 4 and 6 hours to have this meeting with all of us to talk about the search.
Like a board retreat?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like a retreat. So is there an ideal time in the timeline that you would like to see that happen?
I know when Bill's available, so I mean, if you, I can tell you that the only time he's not available is on the 6th of April, and on the 3rd and the 6th of April. Otherwise, he's between now and his schedule is he's available.
So is there
The
we
next
want to
3.
have this by date? Is there a
Okay,
date
so
by which we would like to have this?
yeah, let's skip forward then to bringing all the information back to you on April, sometime within the period of April 27th, 28th, and 29th.
So one of those days would be ideal, sort of to kill the 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing?
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Okay, so let's look at April 20, as you picking the 1 hour date in between.
Or the week before. It would-
I'm out of town from the 26th to the 28th.
That's not allowed, so 29th is what Tony?
How about the 23rd? It's hard to do it on a board meeting, on
Yeah.
the day of a board meeting.
The 23rd?
23rd. Well, we're looking at the 27th to the 29th.
But, well, before then, so anytime before then would work
Oh,
too.
okay.
I was trying to double dip.
Me too.
I'm maximizing.
Me too. That'd be great.
Everybody okay with the 23rd? You take PTO, find a babysitter?
What are the times? What are we thinking?
9 to
All day?
4, yeah.
9 to 4?
Okay.
Good?
And where will we meet?
Is it possible to do it on the 23rd? She's not Miss Jackson. It'll probably be we'll do that one at Martin. Can we
You
do
said
it
the
at Martin?
24th?
At Martin. What'd you say?
I said the 24th, but if everybody's...
I can't do the 24th.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll write you.
May
You want me to write you a note?
24th.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're April.
This is April.
We're still in April.
April 23rd.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So April 23rd, 9 to 4 with Bill.
April
Yeah, call it that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so
Can you email me dates out? Okay. All right. Just getting up people's time, left and right.
So then, so it sounds like that, how about during the period of the 27th, 28th, and 29th as a time to come back? And this is about a 3-hour meeting with the board during which we present, let me back up. It's about a 2-hour meeting when we present the profile and the board finalizes the profile. We need about 2 hours. And we're suggesting sometime within 27th, 28th, 29th.
So it'd have to be the 29th, right, Anna?
Yes.
29th.
It would have to be the 29th. That's a Wednesday.
Does that work okay?
And if we can do it during the day, because I have to teach.
Good to have a lunch meeting.
After 2, starting at 2.
Start at 2. Can you wait till 2 o'clock to eat lunch? No?
Yeah, I know, I'm just trying to make it easier.
So like 2 to 4 on the 29th?
You okay? Under the table?
Hard for me, but I'll work on it. Is there, yeah, I've got a,
29th is very
It's a Wednesday.
is it possible we could do it on a Thursday, or is that,
The 30th, would the 30th be too late? I mean, it's just one more day. Can we do it on the 30th?
Wednesdays are really
Peter?
bad for me.
Earlier during the day.
We could do it on the 30th.
We could do
If everybody else can do it, I can try to work something out.
the 30th will work.
It's not great for me, but I can, okay.
We did it on
I mean, I won't die if I have to come in.
How about the 30th?
I'm good.
That works.
All right.
That is not.
Will you do 12 or?
Well, actually, while we're here, I'm gonna try to beg to move the board meeting, because we have a lot of people that are gonna be out. I'm out, she's out, you're out.
On the 28th?
On the 28th, which is our scheduled board meeting. So we can move the board meeting to that Thursday and then start with this
Oh.
at 2. Just just make it all day. We love each other. We can do
Oh,
it.
my, another holiday.
Yes.
So on Thursday, the
Can we do
30th,
that? Is that legal?
Teacher hearing scheduled for the.
I don't know about that. Yeah, she gotta come, she come first.
So
See if we
we
can
just
do
move
that.
it to the 30th.
Yeah.
Oh, we're supposed to, hey guys, we have a teacher
Yes,
appeal
we just talking
hearing
about
that
that,
night.
see if we
Okay,
can move
I'm
that
sorry,
too.
yeah.
Can we do that? Is that enough notice to move that
As
to?
long, giving sufficient notice and making sure it's okay with the teachers and with the attorneys involved in the
Okay.
appeal, I think we can certainly do that.
Well, let's
Can we just take care of
let's
that?
don't have.
So we're gonna do
With this one,
Thursday the 30th?
Yeah, I wouldn't want that to be,
You wouldn't want what?
surveys, I
want
think.
that to-
I'm not sure.
that approval for them to hamper us.
No,
No,
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
do
do
board
first.
meeting and this meeting, all is gonna be on the 30th, to that Thursday.
We're going to do this one 8-2, and then the board meeting, and then that. So
We're gonna have
taking that.
this meeting, bring a snack.
She always has
No. So the 2-hour meeting to hear the profile, the school board meeting, and then potentially the teacher appeal hearing. I know, she's all frowned up in the face. Can we have snacks? Really bring snacks.
Okay, so the 30th, we'll present the profile from 2 to 4.
This meeting for 2, the board meeting right after. At 5, regular time.
If they agree,
If we can, yeah. Well, we're gonna move the board meeting, the appeal meeting is the thing that's up in question.
right.
We still move.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. So then advertising, recruiting, and
This is
rep-
dedication, man. I would-
so that's all ongoing. Then June 1st or 2nd, we're thinking of that as a time for first-round interviews. And so typically, this is an evening followed by a morning the next day. So it could start like on a Friday. I think what we are suggesting here is it would be, well, actually, this was June 1st or 2nd. In that area, that's actually a Monday, Tuesday. So you'd start on a Monday night, interview some people on Monday night, and then interview some more people on Tuesday morning.
Okay.
How's that looking, generally speaking?
I'm cool with it.
And that's also, so that's when we would, I'm sorry. So we would present the slate to you on the 1st or 2nd, on the Monday or Tuesday, and then you would actually interview people later in the week on the 5th and the 7th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Not Sunday, obviously, but Friday night, Saturday kind of thing. Would that work? So we come in and tell you who we've narrowed it down to, and then you have an opportunity to receive packets on them, and then interview them Friday evening and Saturday morning. And we'd come back in with you on Saturday afternoon and debrief with you.
I'm out of town the 6th and the 7th. I hate to be the problem child, but
Constantly.
sorry.
The what?
I'm out of town on the 6th and 7th.
How about the 4th and 5th?
Sharon with
4th and 5th?
VSBA board, are you on the, do something?
4th and 5th?
How about
That
the 4th
works.
and 5th?
That works for me.
What month are we in now?
June.
Oh, yeah, girl. What year are we in?
So on the 1st, do we need to come when you present the slate, or is that going to be emailed? We have a meeting about that
We'd like
too.
to have, yeah, we'd like
Okay.
to do that in person.
Okay.
So we would come in and present the slate, and at that time, go over the script that we've crafted for the interviewing process.
So the interview, we'll change that to the 4th and 5th?
Does that work?
The evening of the 4th and the morning of the 5th?
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah, that will work.
This June?
Yes.
June 4th and 5th.
And then we would meet with you following the end of your interviews on the 5th.
Are you thinking, I'm sorry, are you thinking like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
Probably 4 o'clock to start,
4 o'clock.
and go until, say, 8:30 or so on...
Thursday,
That's a
the 4th.
Thursday night, and then on Friday, start as early as possible, like 8:30, and then go until noon, and you should be ready to debrief.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then the suggestion would be that if the group gets narrowed down from whatever number you initially interview, then you do a second round of interviews the following week, the week of the 9th through the 12th, somewhere in that, or the 8th. Well, the 9th through the 12th would give you some time to make arrangements. And the second round interview is usually a more involved process. It usually involves a whole day for the candidate. So the candidate would come in with a spouse or significant other and get a tour of the community and have an opportunity to meet with board members, and then be interviewed by the board, and then do a debrief with the board chair, vice chair, president, vice president, and
So how many days are we talking?
so probably a 3 or 4 day commitment there.
Ooh.
So if you let's say you narrowed it down to 3 people, then you'd need three full days and a small part of the next day.
So the 9th is the second
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yes.
That's a board meeting.
That's a board
Oh,
meeting.
so that's not a good day.
Unless we move the board meeting to another day, like
We only have one
before.
meeting.
No, that's
the
July.
month. That's the month we only have one meeting.
That's July.
Could we move it, though?
Could we move it to the
Thursday anyway?
second?
Or no?
9, 10, 11.
To the 2nd?
Well, that conference with council.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's right.
How about the third Wednesday?
Could it theoretically get done in just from the 10th to the 12th, or is that too tight?
You could do the 10th through the 13th, if you just and you just need a little part of the day on the 13th, but you do need to come back and debrief again.
Okay.
So you would need probably a noon meeting to debrief what happened with the finalists. And that's when you begin to narrow it down to a preferred person. What do you think, that time frame in there from the 10th through the 13th?
Either do that or we change the meeting, the day of the meeting.
We could. Want to meet on a Monday? The 9th is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Monday, the
June
8th.
Metro Council hearing is the 8th from
The budget
4:15,
hearing.
yeah.
Is that not until 4:15?
About 4:15 to 5:15.
What do I know? That's the second. So you guys are opposed to the 10th to the 13th?
No?
Just leave it at the 10th to the 13th, and you don't have to worry about moving the meeting.
Okay.
10th, 11th, and what day?
10,
10th through
11,
the
12, and
13th.
13. So that means our debrief would be on a Saturday.
At noon or afternoon?
Yeah.
I probably couldn't make it before 12:30
As a-
on that day. Yeah.
It's either Zumba or Jazzercise.
That's my granddaughter.
So, and then, the other things are pretty flexible to schedule. The background checks and the site visit would happen following the 13th, and that would involve all the board suggest 3 members of the board would go for a site visit unless you choose to have more members of the board go. And then we help prepare the site visit, questions to ask, people to see, and then the candidate actually sets up the logistics of it, and you arrive and everything's all laid out for you based upon what you've requested. Okay. And then, so it's possible following the schedule that by the week of the 22nd, do you have a meeting on the 23rd?
We do.
So the board could actually appoint at the 23rd if that works out.
Okay.
Now, we've kind of talked a little bit about this, and so, you know, we don't really have to get into specifics tonight. I will tell you that as part of the recruitment process, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, it is not unusual for people who are eventually selected for this position do not originally apply. And as a matter of fact, our experience is just the opposite, that more frequently than not, the person appointed did not originally apply. And so we will engage in that process of talking to people who are happy where they are, who are successful where they are, who are doing great things in a school district like yours, and match up with your profile. The other thing that we suggest that you think about this now in terms of internal candidates. What seems to work best is if they adhere to the same criteria of any other candidate. And that's our recommendation. Again, you don't have to decide that tonight or think about that tonight, but be thinking about it as we get closer to the point of the recruitment stage. Our recommendation is, as I think Bill indicated that in the agenda that he sent out to you, that all the candidates adhere to the same criteria. Okay, and then we also don't want you to be talking about tonight anyway, any of this compensation, but those are the things that we recommend, that you look at a total compensation package, and that we'll provide you with information with comparable school districts and what they're doing, just as a benchmark. We'll also present to you what we call a decision matrix, other conditions that you might want to establish for somebody coming in. But the advertising is usually regionally competitive, is what we usually put in the advertising. But when we get to the point of the leadership profile, that would be a good time to sort of begin to finalize what you're thinking about in terms of salary and fringe benefits. Now, this part, we would like you to give us some guidance tonight. Also, in your packet behind tab 1, there's advertisement packages. So we've put together the packages, and they range from $1,750 to $4,000. And how are they different? They're different in duration, and then the prominence that they're given where they are advertised. For example, the American Association of School Administrators, which is the National Superintendent's Group, they have a website where they have job listings. So they'll list the job, and it'll be like a one-line listing. But then they'll give it more prominence, and you'll see on here that they do what they call a spotlight, and then a preferred, and then a featured listing. But frankly, we think given the time constraint, we would suggest something in the middle.
Grace,
Yes.
We have to get it approved. Is it in the budget?
Okay.
There goes one of those.
I just need to check.
There are some freebies in there. The state associations, that's a freebie. The American Association of School Administrators has a Young and Atia. Those are all no charge. Any other major boards? But the ones, sure, Education Week, and then the AASA job site with the upgrades.
Do you know does anyone remember what we did last year? I mean, last search, not last year.
That would be you and Joanne.
Which one of these did?
Do you remember what we did?
I don't remember.
I mean, I wasn't here when that was.
Yeah, I'll ask Bill, and you want to do something similar?
Yeah, if you can get that just take that as a to-do, and have those send me an email.
I'll find out tonight. Okay. Okay, then, earlier I talked about Director of Schools search page. Okay to go with that, and then...
Yeah, so Gino, is that something you would help do, to secure a page on the site?
Yeah, my team, Joe work on it, yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. So with its own little menu option right there at the top.
Yeah, it'd be kind of featured when they open up the webpage, the Director of Schools search, and they can...
And I emailed you my contact info and Joe.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, I'll give you another email address too. I got a better email address too. Okay, so great. We're almost done. Board liaison, we've already talked about that. And we've already talked about our role in talking with the media. Anything I left out?
So the dates that we've agreed on
Yes.
here, you're going to send that back?
Tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, because I lost count somewhere around there.
Yep.
And we only agreed to move one meeting, right, one more meeting, okay.
Yeah, and just to
You're
go...
going to reach out to the teacher appeal group?
Kimmy, maybe you'll do it, but she will include me on that.
Okay, thanks. And then Chris is going to give me a check, and then we'll be good. Right.
Just, so I wrote down the community engagement profile interviews will be during the 14th through the 17th of April. And then on April 30th, we'll present the profile to you from 2 to 4. And then on, did we finalize when we're going to present the slate? Did we say that was going to be on the 1st or the 2nd?
June, wait, is that 4th?
To present the slate to you here with
Is that 4th?
application materials.
June 4th?
Those are the interviews.
Did you do it before the board meeting on the 26th of May?
I thought we were getting, no. Okay.
No?
I don't remember.
When will the slate be ready?
We can have the slate ready.
We solidified that, because I haven't
No,
checked
we
on
said,
that.
we said the 4th
Yeah.
to the 5th,
Well, we said the first,
because the first and second wouldn't work, so we said June 4th to 5th.
Those are interviews.
Those are the interviews, right.
I thought that was.
So then, but they also want a couple hours just to present their
And go over the,
candidates
The roles.
before we interview.
and then go over the protocols for the interview and the script.
we talked about that. We said that those dates were okay.
First or the second, which one?
Oh,
First or the second, you wanted that close?
it matters not to me. Either one works.
Oh, yeah, I don't.
Why don't we do a lunch? on the 2nd.
You're going to get a meal out of this.
That's what it was. Let's kill two birds with one
So
stone.
which one? The first?
The 2nd.
The 2nd? That's it. Tuesday, what day is that?
That way we can,
Tuesday.
that way
Tuesday.
Mary can go to Jazzercise.
All right, June 2nd, 11:30?
11:30 is fine.
Okay, June the 2nd, 11:30, present the slate. Roles Workshop is on here twice.
I'm sorry, yeah, that's not, that should not be Roles Workshop.
It should
then.
say Roles Workshop, that's redundant.
It should be Interview Workshop.
Okay, that's where I was thrown off.
So 2 hours.
Is that another 2-hour?
Yes.
And this is on the 2nd.
This is June 2nd.
11:30 to 1:30. June 2nd.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, and then first round interviews on the 4th and 5th. And then the second round of interviews, the 10th through the 13th. And appointment possibly on the 23rd of June.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Our interviews on these, are we supposed to put down all times we're available, or just pick one
Just
hour
pick
and
one.
be? Okay.
Just pick one and we'll work around.
Okay.
And we'll work around
So
your
let's go back
schedule.
around these. Okay. 14. Okay, 1 second. I'll get those.
I have one question.
Yes.
I know you said that,
Yeah.
If someplace I put my name works better for you, take it.
Oh, thank you. No, I'll just pass it back around. I think people put multiple times.
that often the person selected didn't originally apply.
Yes.
Do you know how that comes out of the advertisement package? Like, how many people appointed came through that avenue? Just curious. Do you know?
Well, they know about
Yeah.
through the
Right. I mean,
advertising.
That's two different things.
Yeah,
I was just
that's,
curious if you track that. How many
yeah, and
people
actually, I
were appointed
then
who
we
found
probably
out?
have tracked it, but
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I could find out. So what kind of return do we get on the investment of the
Well, I mean,
investment?
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I think we should. I was just curious.
That's a
Yeah.
good question.
That's a good one.
Advertisements are,
That's
Little marketing.
a pretty good. No kidding. Go in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? Any other questions, guys? I know this is painful.
Yes, it was.
I know. I know it hurt, but I appreciate your attention, your time. Anything else you need from us tonight?
No, thank you very
You good
much.
to go?
This has been great.
Didn't I promise you?
You did.
I told you. These guys are great.
You encouraged me, too. I didn't think I
I
could do
said, you
it.
not see the meeting I just had?
I left out my joke, too.
He was
It's
like,
a
wait,
very funny
he
joke,
says, I
but I
should
left
tell
it
jokes.
out.
No.
And so our cell phones.
That's what I, you know.
Landlines and so on.